Trouble in paradise as the honeymoon between Elon Musk and Donald Trump is over. This in the year of Kamala Harris on Whispers of a Dark Future.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
All right, so Piper, will you introduce this revelation that has happened? What is this feud that has emerged between the bestest of friends, Elon Musk and Donald Trump?
After Elon left the White House, basically he got into a Twitter feud with Donald Trump. He had previously criticized Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill for increasing deficit. And, so they've gone back and forth on Twitter. Elon accused Trump of being on the Epstein list. Trump said that Elon was crazy and, has said that he should pull all the federal funding from Elon's companies. And so, now they're on the outs, whereas, before they were sort of running through the federal bureaucracy as a unified front.
Yes, and part of this vicious battle between wits, if you will, Elon tweeted, "Without me, Trump would have lost the elections. Dems would control the House and the Republicans would be 51 to 45 in the Senate." Of course, Elon is claiming that he was the backbone, the financial backbone behind Trump's 2024 run and helped to get him elected. Trump, of course, is responding, saying, no, of course, Trump would have a big ego about these things. So he's saying, no, Elon is a fool and he's going to lose, and he's going to probably remove whatever subsidies or lucrative deals they had set up before to sort of get back at Elon for daring to defy the Donald.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one reason why I sort of knew that they were eventually going to fall out, which is, Donald Trump doesn't tolerate dissent, right? So, if Elon Musk says anything that's, too pointed about him, then he's on the outs. So, that's sort of one reason why this episode was sort of really predictable. What are your thoughts on the predictability of this development?
It was highly. I mean, everybody. Joe Schmo Lefty was saying this. Even all of the pundits were saying this was inevitable. So much so, mainstream media, the centrist liberal media was saying was inevitable. So much so that Elon and Trump was aware of these rumors. They kept saying, "No, we're solid. They're trying to break us up. They're trying to divide us when we're a complete unit, ready to take on wasteful government spending. We will never come to blows." And then, of course, not long after, they came to blows. And everybody was not surprised, except for quite many conservatives who were convinced that it was just fake news, that they would ever, that the honeymoon would ever be over. But mostly everybody else was pretty certain this was going to happen, given that Trump's last administration was a revolving door of cabinet members, advisors, and so on. It's funny because in one of the tweets against Elon, Trump says, Elon was wearing a bit thin. It seems that those rumors about Elon annoying Trump were no doubt certainly true. And these first almost half a year of his second term was seemingly unstoppable. He was filing all these executive orders. He was threatening the press. He was threatening universities. He seemed unstoppable. But again, inevitably, Trump is his own worst enemy. And certain things were going to inevitably break down. Elon wanted benefits for his company. Trump wanted the tariff everything. Naturally, these would collide sooner or later. And so, possibly this may be the beginning, the first domino to fall in seeing the Trump's second presidency slowly collapsing on itself. There's memes now, of course, of the furry meme where the little furry guy is crying and his parents. The silhouette of his parents is in the background. And someone put Elon Musk and Trump as the parents, and then JD Vance as the little furry guy. And,
So did that with Fox News as well.
Yeah. yeah, the conservative parents are getting a divorce, and the conservative child has to pick custody now. And of course, that's also happening. Some people are choosing Team Elon. Some people are choosing Team Trump. And this is part of that dominoes, right? He's going to lose a lot of people. A lot of people who voted for Trump simply through Elon. That's over. Some of the Republicans were backing Elon against the bill and everything, and that might threaten that majority they had for a while. So yeah, this may be the beginning of the end for the second Trump presidency. This may in fact cost him the midterms. It was looking like the Republicans they're gonna beat the Democrats, but they couldn't keep the House together. Mama Elon and Daddy Trump, they just couldn't wait for their little child to grow up and go to college before then divorcing. They decided immediately after the child was born to just go ahead and get a divorce because they just immediately hated each other. So it's sad when parents get divorced, especially a president and his CEO car company founder, not founder of. Anyways, we should also talk about the protests against Tesla, right? And how that factors into all this. So you want to talk about the protests against Tesla?
Yeah, so I mean, it's he left the White House before with fanfare that Trump gave him a key to the White House. Before they actually fell out, right? So, there was basically a bunch of other stuff that actually led him to leave Doge. On the one hand, there were the issues of him not liking the sort of deglobalization agenda of the Trump administration. Before he actually said anything about Trump, he was going after Trump officials over the tariffs and being very nasty to them. He before all this, he had criticized the big beautiful bill. So that stuff was sort of putting pressure on him to leave. Plus, his involvement with Doge wasn't good for publicity for his company. But then on top of that, there was a huge wave of direct action against his companies, people doing vandalism against his companies, and, basically physically destroying stuff, physically destroying his property and defacing his property and so forth and so on, because of his involvement with Doge. And so that put all of this like pressure on not only Tesla but on him as a result of his involvement with Doge. And so the thing to sort of emphasize about this circumstance is that the protests were a major factor in why he left the government. Right. So, if you're sort of looking at all of this protest that's going on against the Trump administration and thinking, a lot of this is pointless. Well, we have here some reason to believe that that's not true. That it's not pointless. Clearly, the protests played a big role in his leaving the administration, along with his antipathy to Trump's economic policies. And the bad publicity for his company that's, leading stocks to fall for his company and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there were people throwing bricks at the windows of Teslas, the dealerships. There were people with Teslas putting little slogans on their Cybertrucks saying, "Look, I bought this before the administration and everything, so please do not destroy my Cybertruck, my PlayStation 1 vehicle." And there was a lot of pressure internally for a lot of Tesla personnel to distance themselves from Elon, try to get a new CEO and things like that. And Elon, of course, was saying, it's just the radical left. They're trying to stop me from taking down government bureaucracy. We're going to restore democracy because it's actually interesting. Elon's cries about the US being like a bureaucracy is sort of similar to Bernie Sanders' cries that it's an oligarchy. You've got two sides of this attempt of like, look, America is a bureaucracy or it's an oligarchy and we got to restore true democracy. And of course, what this looks like is different from either end. But thankfully, the chickens came home to roost. And, and I saw some memes going around that ICE was going to start knocking on Elon's door and sending him back to South Africa, things like that. Oh, it's, it's all raw ethnocracy until, you end up getting excluded from that ethnos that you were cheering on so much. So yeah, I guess, it's a good day finally after a bajillion executive orders. So hopefully, I think the thing that Being's looking forward to is the inevitable third impeachment. Whether or not he'll get actually removed, I don't know. But it would be awesome if there was a third, fourth, fifth impeachment, just like endless impeachments. Trump can get the high score on impeachment. I mean, he already has the high score. Before him, it was one, right? Bill Clinton, Andrew Johnson. They only had one. But Trump is the best, he said. So he got the high score of impeachments, and I'm looking forward to him beating his own high score. And the third impeachment, the fourth impeachment, the fifth impeachment of Donald Trump. Maybe one of these will stick, and he'll get kicked out, and then we'll have President Vance, and no doubt he, like Gerald Ford, will lose any bids of reelection. Actually, it's funny if Vance assumes the presidency with less than 2 years of Trump's term. Vance could get 2 more terms. So so, you know, 10 years, 9 years of president.
I gotta be honest with you, and I'm putting this on the record, so people from the future can come back and laugh at me if I'm wrong. But I don't see any world in which JD Vance has any ability to marshal any support whatsoever. Like, he's not going to be able to carry the MAGA base, I don't think. Like, he's not anywhere near charismatic enough. He's too bland and kind of strange, and he has like a liberal past. And I mean, he's just like Trump's number 2. Like, nobody, the MAGA crowd, I don't think wants to rally around him. I don't think he's the kind of person that they're going to rally around.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Him and his wife, the couch. I mean, not the couch. That's vicious lies against him. But what impact do you think will this have an impact on the midterms? Do you think?
I mean, I think it has to some degree. I mean, it's a big sort of like, it's the first big example of the Trump coalition falling apart. And, I thought after January 6th, because all the the establishment Republicans, especially Mike Vance, who could have died, right? Or sorry, Mike Vance, Mike Pence, who could have died, right? Especially him. They were all mad at Trump for instigating January 6th. I thought at that point the Republican Party was going to give up on the MAGA cult, right? And because they realized it was too dangerous or something. But the Republican base is too captured by it, so they didn't do that, right? They kept on trucking and, basically shoved January 6th aside and said, oh, we don't want to talk about that. And so, I think a lot of what Trump is doing in his second term, because he's being sort of even more divisive and extreme than he was in his first term, even though his first term concluded with January 6th, so that should tell you something. I think this term is going to maybe go a little bit further towards making Republicans think twice about the MAGA cult. This time I'm not saying they're going to dump it, because I was wrong last time about that. But I think, it's going to continue. It's going to give establishment Republicans more anxiety than it did previously, I think. And I think, this is a case of that. I mean, Elon Musk is, he was Trump's, basically, number one guy, right? He was, he committed millions to Trump's campaign. He was the personal, sort of unofficial head of Trump's mechanism for gutting the federal government of anybody he didn't like. And so, the fact that they've now fallen out because Trump's agenda is too illiberal even for Musk, I think that is telling. I think that's maybe the beginning of some of the screws starting to loosen and fall out, and so, I think it will have an impact on the ability of the, Trump administration to do well in the midterms, Republicans to do well in the midterms, and certainly the ability of the Republicans to win in 2028. My prediction already is that they're going to, and again, future people could come back and laugh at me, but my prediction already is that there's no way the Republicans are winning in 2028. I don't think they have a snowball's chance.
You don't think epic centrist liberal democracy, which is pretending to also be liberal conservatism too, you don't think they can reestablish the cartel? They can reestablish
Well,
no?
I think, I don't like, so it's really, so I think if it's centrist Democrat versus some populist, whoever that may be, right? I think the centrist Democrat is going to win. But I think the result of that isn't going to be like, the restoration of democracy in America, Kamala Harris campaign slogan style. It's going to be like, you know, basically it's going to be, worse than even the sort of managed decline under Biden, right? Things are going to get it's going to be like basically it's going to be this impossible task of putting Humpty Dumpty back together again. It's not going to work. But that said, again, my prediction is still the Republicans don't have a snowball's chance in 2028. Again, future people can laugh at me, but I don't think they're going to be able to do it.
All right. Is that about it for us? I mean, this has been the shortest episode. Do we have anything else to talk about here?
Well, I mean, I think that's basically it. Well, wait, how long was the last episode?
It was like 20 some minutes.
Okay, so I mean, this is I think this is an acceptable length. I think we can conclude here.
All right. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood for the 360.
Did you not write? Did you not write down ads?
No, hold on. Pinkie Pie, and Steve in a hot tub. All right,
Go.
that's those are Maving's final bi-weekly words. What is Piper's final bi-weekly words?
Patreon. Go look at the Patreon. Also, go look at our channels. All links in the description.
All right, goodbye, everybody.
You exist in the context.